The galaxy was a vast, ever-expanding battleground, an arena where the most powerful species clashed for dominance. The United Federation of Planets, a coalition of alien races, had spent years waging war against the Tirkar Dominion. The Tirkar were ruthless, calculating, and technologically superior in many ways. Their warships were colossal, equipped with weapons that could level entire cities with a single strike. But despite their power, the Dominion was struggling. They couldn't defeat the Federation, and a decisive shift in the tide of war was imminent. That's when they received word of humanity's involvement in the conflict. The aliens expected little from humans. After all, Earth had only recently entered the galactic stage. Their technology was primitive, their ships rudimentary at best. The human representatives had assured the Federation that they would be contributing a small, reliable shuttle, a modest spacecraft designed for reconnaissance and transportation. Nothing that would threaten the balance of power. It was a show of goodwill, nothing more. The Federation's command center buzzed with activity as the time of arrival approached. Aliens from all corners of the galaxy, each with their own advanced species and cultures, gathered to witness the delivery. No one was concerned. No one was worried. You can't expect a species that still uses combustion engines for some of their transports to do anything significant in this war, said Admiral Zar, a cold-eyed, towering figure from the RLYV species. He stared at the human diplomat on the communication screen, disbelief evident in his posture. We've seen the ships they have. They're nothing special, said a Zorvian officer, clicking his mandibles in disapproval. This war won't last long. The human diplomat, Captain Alicia Miller, simply smiled. We're here to contribute in any way we can. Our shuttle will be arriving soon. On the other side of the Federation's fleet, the aliens waited for the shuttle to dock. The ships they had brought to the war were already aligned in the staging area, with their sleek lines and powerful engines. The Federation had no idea that humanity's greatest weapon had been hidden away in plain sight, cloaked under a veil of deception. And then they saw it. A small, unassuming ship appeared in the distance, a tiny dot, flickering as it entered the system's atmosphere. It was precisely as the humans had described. Small, sleek, inconspicuous. It was almost laughable. For a moment, the aliens relaxed. This was exactly what they had expected, until the shuttle's true form was revealed. The small ship didn't just dock, it transformed. Metallic plating shifted, revealing hidden sections that expanded and unfolded like a titanic beast waking from a long slumber. The shuttle's size quadrupled in a matter of moments, and what had appeared to be a simple transport was now a colossal warship. Humanity's ultimate battleship, the Excalibur. Its long, sleek form now boasted advanced weapon systems that glowed a threatening red, and its shields shimmered with a faint but menacing aura. The Federation's response was immediate, but it was too late. Admiral Zar's jaw dropped. What is this? His voice was a mix of anger and disbelief. This was supposed to be a shuttle. Captain Miller's voice rang out over the comms. We were just waiting for the right time to show you the real humanity. Welcome to the war. Section 2, The Unexpected Reveal. The Federation's fleet was in disarray. Zar stood on the command deck of his flagship, his mandibles twitching in frustration. Is this some kind of trick? He growled. How could they have hidden something like this? It's impossible. But it wasn't a trick. It was humanity's secret weapon, a battleship so advanced, so powerful, that it made the Federation's finest warships look like toys by comparison. It had been built in the deepest corners of Earth's oceans, its design shrouded in secrecy for decades. No one outside the highest echelons of Earth's military knew it existed. The Excalibur wasn't just any ship. It was a culmination of human ingenuity, decades of research into energy-based weapons, AI-driven tactics, and cutting-edge propulsion systems. The ship's core was powered by a unique form of antimatter, creating energy at a scale never before seen. Its defensive shields could absorb and redirect energy, making it nearly impervious to conventional weaponry. And its weapon systems? They could obliterate entire fleets with a single strike. The Federation's fleet tried to retaliate, but their weapons had no effect. Plasma beams and missiles exploded harmlessly against the ship's energy shields, sending shock waves through the nearby void. Captain Miller, standing in the bridge of the Excalibur, gazed calmly out at the Federation's scattered forces. She activated the ship's communications. "To the Federation," she began, her voice firm and resolute, "we are no longer neutral. Humanity is here to fight." Admiral Czar was silent for a moment, stunned by the implications of this revelation. "You've had this all along?" "The shuttle was a decoy. We've been preparing for this day. We have no intention of letting the galaxy fall to tyranny." The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of humanity's declaration. Across the fleet, alien officers scrambled to adjust their tactics, but nothing there would even begin to challenge the Excalibur. "Captain," a crew member said, interrupting her thoughts, "the tier car are regrouping. They're preparing to send reinforcements." Miller turned her attention back to the battle. "Prepare the weapons," she said, her voice calm but with an unmistakable undercurrent of resolve. "Let's show them what humanity is truly capable of." Section 3. Battle and Humanity's Resolve. The Excalibur moved with deadly precision, its engines firing as it propelled forward. The alien ships, once confident in their superiority, now scattered in fear. The Excalibur's weapons came online: plasma cannons, antimatter bombs, and ion pulse lasers. It fired without hesitation, the weapons ripping through the enemy fleet with terrifying accuracy. The Federation's forces attempted to regroup, but it was futile. The Excalibur was a fortress in space, and the Federation's fleets were little more than targets. "Shields at full power," Miller ordered, her voice cold. "Engage evasive maneuvers." The battle was chaotic, but the human ship was unyielding. It obliterated ship after ship, effortlessly dismantling the enemy forces with calculated efficiency. The Federation's once proud fleet was being destroyed before their eyes. But amidst the destruction, Miller could feel the weight of the battle. She had trained for years to command the Excalibur, but there was still a sense of unease. The ship was more than just a weapon. It was a symbol of humanity's resolve. It was proof that humanity could no longer be underestimated. As the final remnants of the Federation fleet were obliterated, Miller stood tall on the bridge of the Excalibur, gazing at the aftermath of the battle. The Federation's victory was theirs, but the consequences were clear. Humanity had revealed its true power, and the galaxy would never be the same. "Prepare for our next move," she said. "We've only just begun." Conclusion: the galaxy was forever changed. The Federation's once shining hope for a quick resolution to the war had crumbled under the weight of humanity's hidden strength. The Excalibur had proven that humanity was not just a peaceful species. The Excalibur floated in the void, its massive hull casting an eerie shadow across the shattered remnants of the Federation fleet. The battle was over, but the silence that followed was deafening. The victory was undeniable. Yet there was a stillness in the air that even the crew of the Excalibur could not ignore. Captain Alicia Miller stood at the bridge's window, staring out into the black expanse, her face lit by the dim glow of the stars beyond. Humanity had finally stepped into the galactic fray. No longer would Earth be dismissed as a minor player in the great scheme of the universe. Yet, with this newfound power came a great responsibility, one she hadn't fully grasped until the moment the battle had ended. The Excalibur was a symbol of human ingenuity, but it was also a weapon capable of unimaginable destruction. Could they control it? Could they wield it without becoming what they once opposed? "Captain," a voice interrupted her thoughts. It was Commander Lucas Hayward, her second in command. He was a tall, broad-shouldered man, with a stern expression that softened only around the edges when he spoke to her. "We received a transmission from the Federation. Admiral Czar is requesting a diplomatic meeting." A slight frown tugged at Miller's lips. "What does he want?" "He says it's a negotiation. The Federation is reconsidering their stance on human involvement in the war." Miller turned away from the window and faced Hayward. "Negotiation?" She smirked. "They had no interest in negotiation before we unleashed the Excalibur on them." "I think they understand now, Captain," Hayward said. "We've shifted the balance. If we want peace, we may have to play this carefully." Miller took a deep breath. "Fine. Set up the meeting. But let them know humanity won't be intimidated or controlled. We're not here to be pawns." Section 2. The Federation's Response. The The Federation's flagship hovered in the distance, its sleek, metallic surface gleaming in the dim light of the distant sun. The ship had once been a symbol of the Federation's might, a beacon of peace, hope, and unity for the galaxy's many species. Now it looked frail, like a crumbling relic of a bygone era. Admiral Zar stood on the observation deck of his flagship, staring at the enormous Excalibur on the view screen. It dwarfed his own vessel. Its sheer size and power seemed to mock the Federation's arrogance. Zar had always prided himself on his ability to predict outcomes, to maintain control over any situation. But humanity's ship had shattered his certainty. In all his years, he had never faced anything like this. The transmission from the Excalibur had been direct, but cold. Captain Miller's words echoed in his mind. "We're not here to be pawns. What do they want?" Zar muttered to no one in particular. A Zorvian diplomat, an alien whose face was constantly shifting between various bioluminescent patterns, stepped forward. "Admiral, it's clear that the humans have tipped the scales. They are now a force we must reckon with, not just a species we can manipulate." Zar glared at the diplomat, his frustration evident. "I know that, I can see that. What I don't understand is why they didn't reveal their power sooner. If they could do this all along, why wait until now?" The diplomat's lights flickered thoughtfully. Perhaps they wanted to remain neutral. Or perhaps they simply weren't ready to expose their full potential until the war was at a turning point. Now they have made their choice. "And what is their choice?" Zar asked, turning to face the diplomat. "To stand with us or against us." Section 3. The Negotiation. The meeting room was dimly lit, with a long, polished table stretching out between the representatives of the Federation and the humans. On one side sat Zar, flanked by the Zorvian diplomat and a few other high-ranking officers. On the other side, Captain Miller sat, her posture straight, her expression unreadable. Hayward stood beside her, his eyes scanning the room for potential threats. The air was thick with tension. Both sides knew this wasn't just a meeting. It was a turning point. The Excalibur had already demonstrated its might, but now humanity was in position to dictate terms. The Federation needed their help, but they had to tread carefully. The balance of power had shifted. It was no longer in their favor. "Captain Miller," Zar began, his voice grave, "your ship has proven humanity's strength. You have demonstrated that you are no longer the peaceful, defenseless species we once thought you to be. But let us be clear. This war is far from over. The Tyr car will not back down easily." Miller leaned forward slightly, her eyes locking onto Zar's. "We didn't come here to be a pawn in your war, Admiral. We didn't come here to pick sides. We came here because we believe in something greater. Peace, freedom, and the preservation of life. If that means we must fight, then we will. But we will not be controlled by anyone." Zar's mandibles clicked in frustration, but he held his ground. "Then what is it you want, Captain? If you will not join the Federation fully, if you will not lend us your strength without strings attached, then how can we trust you?" Miller's lips curled into a small smile. "You can't, but you can ally with us on our terms. We will help you defeat the Tyr car, but we want the freedom to chart our own path forward. Humanity will not be a servant to any galactic coalition. We'll fight for peace, not for your cause." The room fell silent. The Zorvian diplomat's lights flickered erratically, as if considering Miller's words carefully. Zar, for the first time in this conversation, looked unsure. "What do you propose, then?" Zar asked, his tone softer than before. "We'll support you in the war against the Tyr car, but only if it serves a greater good." Miller said firmly, "No more manipulation, no more control. The humans are free agents in this galaxy, and we will fight for freedom, our own and everyone's." Zar's gaze narrowed, but the diplomat's shifting light seemed to soften. He understood the implications of this offer. Humanity wasn't asking for control. They were asking for respect, for sovereignty in the galaxy. "We will discuss this with the other members of the Federation," Zar said finally. "But be aware, Captain Miller, that if we accept this proposal, the war will intensify. The Tyr car will come for you." "Let them," Miller replied. "Humanity doesn't fear war. We fight to protect what matters." Section 4. the first assault. As the meeting concluded, the Federation's forces began to prepare for the next phase of the war. Humanity's involvement was now official, but the Tir-Kar were not far behind. A massive Tir-Kar fleet had been spotted approaching Federation space, and the battle for control of the galaxy would soon escalate. Captain Miller and her crew aboard the Excalibur watched the scanners closely, knowing that this would be their first true test in the galactic conflict. The Excalibur was ready. Its weapon systems were charged, and the crew was primed for battle. Humanity had already proven itself capable of delivering overwhelming power, but now they would need to prove that they could do more than just destroy. They would need to outmaneuver, outthink, and outlast the enemy. The first wave of Tir-Kar ships appeared on the horizon, their massive dreadnoughts dwarfing the Federation's fleet. But the Excalibur was ready. Full power to engines, Miller ordered. Prepare for combat. The Excalibur moved through the void with a grace that belied its size. The massive warship, now fully integrated into the Federation strategy, had already proven its worth in combat. But the upcoming battle against the Tir-Kar will be unlike anything humanity had faced before. "Captain, we have incoming," reported Lieutenant Tessa Hartley, the communications officer, her voice steady despite the tension that hung in the air. She was a veteran, having served in Earth's military for years before the Excalibur had been revealed. There was no panic in her voice, only quiet determination. Tir-Kar fleet has jumped into the system. Miller didn't need to look at the sensor readout. She knew the Tir-Kar fleet was unlike anything the Federation had encountered. Their ships were enormous, with hulls made from dark, almost obsidian-like metal. Their weapons could rip through the toughest defenses, and their fleets were notorious for their relentless and unforgiving tactics. "How many ships?" Captain Miller asked, her voice cold but steady. 17 warships, including 3 dreadnought-class vessels," Hartley replied, her fingers moving rapidly over a console. "They've got a full complement of destroyers and cruisers. It's a full-scale assault." Miller leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "Prepare for combat, all hands to battle stations." Section 2, the battle unfolds. The Tir-Kar were ruthless. As soon as their fleet arrived, they began to fire without warning, their weapons unleashing torrent of destructive energy at the Federation's fleet. The Excalibur wasn't far behind. With a powerful surge of its engines, the massive human battleship tore through the void and into the heart of the conflict. Captain Miller watched as the Excalibur's weapons came online. The massive turrets on the battleship's port and starboard sides swiveled to aim at the incoming Tir-Kar ships. She didn't flinch. The Excalibur's primary weapon, a massive railgun capable of firing projectiles that could travel faster than light, charged with an ominous hum. In an instant, it fired. The beam of energy shot out like a streak of lightning, slamming into the lead Tir-Kar dreadnought, tearing a massive hole in its side. Explosions erupted from within, and the dreadnought shuddered violently before crumpling into a twisted wreck of shattered metal. "Direct hit!" "One dreadnought down," Hartley called out. But the Tir-Kar were no slouches. They regrouped quickly, firing back with even greater intensity. The first wave of plasma blasts from the Tir-Kar struck the Excalibur, sending ripples of energy across its shields. The human ship rocked with the impact, but its shields held firm. "Shields at 95%, Captain," reported Commander Hayward, his voice calm but tense. "We're holding up, but they're hitting hard." Miller's jaw clenched. The Excalibur was a formidable ship, but even it could be overwhelmed by sheer numbers. And the Tir-Kar had numbers and power. "Return fire," she ordered. "Target their cruisers." The Excalibur unleashed its full arsenal, railguns, plasma cannons, and even missile pods, all firing in perfect synchronization. The human warship was a predator in a sea of prey, cutting through Tir-Kar ships with brutal efficiency. But the battle wasn't won yet. The Tir-Kar were relentless, and their counterattacks were vicious. As the Excalibur fired again, a Tir-Kar destroyer attempted to flank it, launching a volley of missiles. The explosion shook the Excalibur, knocking out a few auxiliary systems. "Captain, they've breached our aft section," Hartley shouted. "We're losing power to secondary systems. Damage control teams to the aft section now." Miller barked, her eyes scanning the battle around her. The Tir-Kar were using everything they had, and it was clear they wouldn't stop until humanity's ship was a burning wreck. Section 3. The Tides of War. The battle raged on, and the Excalibur was taking hits. Yet, humanity's resolve was unshakable. Despite the damage, the Excalibur continued to press forward, determined to show the galaxy that Earth was no longer just a shuttle-driving species. It was a force that would shape the future of the galaxy. The tide of the battle began to shift as more Tir-Kar ships fell to the Excalibur's superior firepower. Each shot from the Excalibur's weapon systems was calculated, precise, and devastating. The railgun fired again, punching the hull of another dreadnought, sending it spiraling into oblivion. Enemy reinforcements arriving, Hayward reported, his voice tight. They've called in their entire fleet. We got more Tir-Kar ships coming in at high speed. Miller's eyes darted to the battle map. It was becoming clear that the Federation's forces couldn't keep up with the sheer numbers of the Tir-Kar. The human warship, though powerful, was now surrounded, with multiple Tir-Kar ships closing in from all sides. But Miller wasn't afraid. Humanity had never backed down from a fight. She fought to the darkest days on Earth, through wars, famine, and extinction-level threats. She wasn't about to let the Tir-Kar decide humanity's fate now. "Commander Hayward, initiate evasive maneuvers," she ordered. "Full speed ahead, all forward cannons at maximum power. We're going through them." The Excalibur surged forward like a beast unleashed, charging straight at the Tir-Kar fleet. The entire bridge crew braced themselves as the ship twisted and turned, avoiding incoming fire while still maintaining its own relentless barrage. "Captain, there's no way we can take on all of them with this damage," Hayward warned, his eyes locked on the fleet's movements. "We need backup." "We're not waiting for backup," Miller shot back, her eyes narrowing. "We finish this now. All hands, prepare for final push." Section 4. Humanity's Moment. The final stage of the battle was upon them. The Excalibur had taken damage, and the Federation's fleet was nearly depleted. The Tir-Kar had regrouped, and they were preparing their most devastating attack yet. In the distance, the Tir-Kar flagship, a gargantuan battleship, even larger than the Excalibur, glared menacingly at the human ship. It was the Tir-Kar's last move. One decisive blow, and the Federation's hopes would be dashed. But humanity was ready. The Excalibur systems hummed with power, its engines glowing bright as the human battleship tore forward once again, this time with new strategy. "Captain, they've launched their final assault," Hartley said, her voice tinged with urgency. "They're firing everything they have. If we don't stop them now—" "We will stop them," Miller interrupted, her voice sharp. "Prepare to engage the flagship with everything we've got. Target their reactors." As the Excalibur barreled toward the Tir-Kar flagship, the crew worked in perfect synchronization. The massive warship unleashed a series of concentrated strikes, its railguns firing at near light-speed intervals. The Tir-Kar flagship fired back, but the Excalibur's shields absorbed the blast. The tide of the battle turned in that instant. The human ship was too fast, too powerful. Direct hit on their reactor core. Hayward called out, "The Tir-Kar flagship is destabilizing." With a final, deafening explosion, the Tir-Kar flagship disintegrated, its remains scattering across space in a fiery display of destruction. The battlefield fell silent once again. Conclusion: the dawn of a new era. The battle was over. The Tir-Kar fleet was shattered, their forces in disarray. The Excalibur. The stars outside the Excalibur's bridge flickered like distant lanterns in the night, but inside there was no sense of peace. Captain Alicia Miller stood before the large view screen, her hands clasped behind her back, staring at the wreckage left behind by the Tir-Kar fleet. The last battle had been decisive, but it had cost the Federation dearly, and humanity had borne the brunt of the war's most brutal confrontation. Admiral Czar's voice crackled over the comms, but it was not the usual coldness of superior officer. It was laden with respect, perhaps even awe. "Captain Miller," Czar began, his mandibles clicking slowly as if choosing his words with great care. "I must admit I underestimated your people. You have proven yourselves to be more than just a curiosity." The word stung less than she expected. She had known that humanity's involvement in the war would forever alter the galaxy's power dynamics, but hearing the Federation admit to their underestimation felt bittersweet. "We don't do it for recognition, Admiral," Miller replied. "We fight to survive, and we fight to ensure the future of the galaxy, for everyone." The Excalibur had destroyed the Tirkar flagship, their greatest weapon, and obliterated much of their fleet in the process. The Federation, for all their technological superiority, was still reeling from the battle. Their fleet had been decimated, and their morale had taken a significant hit. Yet despite their victory, Miller knew the war was far from over. The Tirkar were not a species to be easily defeated, and their retreat had only been temporary. They would return, and humanity's role in this war was now a major factor. There were new powers watching, powers who had once viewed humanity as a mere nuisance, now realizing that Earth was more than capable of shaping the galaxy's future. "Captain," Commander Hayward's voice broke through her thoughts. "We received a message from the remaining Tirkar forces. It's a surrender request." Miller's eyebrow arched. "A surrender? After all of this?" "Yes, but it's not as simple as it seems. They're asking for negotiations. They want a ceasefire, and they're willing to discuss the future terms of the war." "Patch it through," Miller said, turning her chair to face the tactical station. "Let's see what they have to say." Section 2. The Tirkar surrender. The holographic display flickered to life, and the face of the Tirkar Supreme Commander appeared before Miller. His eyes, glowing with an unnatural red hue, regarded her coldly. "Captain Miller." The Tirkar commander began, his voice deep and metallic, resonating like the rumble of an earthquake. "You have shown humanity's strength. We did not anticipate such a power, but the war is not over. Your victory is temporary. The Tirkar will return, and we will finish what we started." Miller's gaze remained unwavering, but her mind was already racing. The Tirkar were dangerous, but if they were asking for negotiations, it was because they had realized the stakes were higher than they had initially calculated. "Commander," she said calmly, "you have lost your flagship. Your fleet is shattered. We've shown you the price of your war. What makes you think that humanity will allow you to continue?" The Tirkar Supreme Commander leaned forward slightly. "Because we have something you want. Captain, we control the most powerful energy source in the galaxy, the Prime Crystal. It is a material capable of sustaining a fleet far beyond anything you've seen. The Excalibur may be powerful, but it is not invincible. The Prime Crystal can tip the balance of this war. All of it." The mention of the Prime Crystal sent a jolt of realization through Miller. The Prime Crystal was rumored to be an ancient alien power source, said to be the key to unlimited energy. Whoever controlled it could power entire fleets, and even reshape the galaxy itself. "You want us to trade for it?" Miller asked, her voice sharp. "Not trade," the Tirkar commander said, his eyes narrowing. "Join us. Help us use the Prime Crystal's power to defeat the other galactic factions. Together, we can rule this galaxy." Miller's blood ran cold. "You've lost this war, Commander. You're offering surrender, not an alliance. I suggest you remember who hold the upper hand here." The Tirkar commander's expression darkened. "You misunderstand. Human, we offer you the Prime Crystal. We offer you power beyond your wildest imagination. All we ask is that you join us in reshaping the galaxy. Your species is strong. You deserve to stand with us at the top." Miller's lips twisted into a cold smile. "Humanity doesn't need your crystal to rule. We've fought for this galaxy, not to dominate it, but to protect it. And if you threaten it again, we'll make sure your forces never return." With a final flick of his wrist, the Tirkar commander's image disappeared, leaving nothing but the silence of space. Miller leaned back in her chair, her mind processing the implications of the offer. The Tirkar had never been a peaceful species, but the promise of such power could tempt even most steadfast of allies. This was no longer just about the Federation. It was about humanity's role in the galaxy. "We won't be controlled," she muttered to herself, then turned to her crew. "Get the Excalibur ready. We're heading to the Prime Crystal. If they want to fight, they'll get one." Section 3. The search for the Prime Crystal. The Excalibur surged through space, its engines at full power as it headed toward the last known location of the prime crystal, a small moon orbiting an ancient, uncharted planet. Despite the apparent peace in the galaxy following the Tirkar's retreat, humanity's role was now in question. The Federation, still reeling from their losses, had left the Excalibur to lead the charge. The rest of the galaxy was watching, waiting to see what humanity would do next. Captain Hayward's voice came over the intercom. "We're approaching the coordinates. There's a structure on the surface, a massive underground facility, built into the planet's core. It's old, older than any known civilization." Miller stood up from her seat, her eyes scanning the displays. "What's the condition of the planet? Is it hostile?" "It's uninhabited," Hayward responded. "No life signs detected, but we're getting strange energy readings. It's as if the entire planet is resonating with something, like a harmonic field." Miller frowned. "Take us in, Commander. I want to see this facility with my own eyes." Section 4, The Dark Truth. As the Excalibur entered the planet's atmosphere, the crew felt a slight tremor as the ship passed through turbulent clouds. The ancient facility's entrance came into view, a gargantuan, circular opening surrounded by massive stone structures, covered in alien runes and symbols. The entire structure seemed to hum with latent energy, as if it had been waiting for someone to come and unlock its secrets. "Setting down now," Hayward reported, his voice steady. The Excalibur touched down on the planet's surface, the massive landing struts digging into the earth with a soft hiss. Miller stood in the command center, her mind racing. This was it, the key to everything. She walked down the halls of the ship, her footsteps echoing in the silence, until she reached the docking bay. A small team of engineers, led by Lieutenant Hartley, was already prepping to go on the surface. "Ready, Captain," Hartley said, her eyes glinting with the same mixture of determination and curiosity Miller had seen.